Welcome, dear student. Today we are going to learn chapter number 5 from your history textbook, that is mass media and history. So children, let us start the chapter. So the topics that we are going to cover in this chapter, that is introduction to mass media, history of mass media, and need of mass media. So children, let us understand what is mass media. Introduction to mass media. Children, what is mass media? Mass media is a combination of two words. The word mass means aggregation of people. The word aggregation means a group. It means mass means a group of people, whereas media means various mode of communication. So, the mass media is a field of mass communication. Mass media refers to a diverse array of media technologies that reach a large audience via mass communication. The technologies through which this communication takes place include a variety of outlets. Children, let us understand what are these outlets. In the 20th century, it became very easy for anyone to convey information or to spread information to a far away destination through a mediums of communication. But earlier, in the olden days, a crier or announcer would run into the streets beating drum and crying out important news according to the orders of the king. The news would spread among the people by the word of mouth. History of mass media. The history of mass media stretches from prehistoric forms of art and writing through basic printing technology from around 800 AD. The invention of Gutenberg's printing press in year 1455, the first weekly printed newspaper in year 1605. The invention of radio by Marconi in 1895. Television by John Logie Bates in year 1925, and finally to the internet, the World Wide Web by Tim Berners-Lee in year 1990. The number reached by each of these art forms and technologies has steadily grown from the handful to 100,000 and even millions via newspaper, radio, and television. But now, to the medium of the internet, the audience is virtually limitless and certainly in the billions, with an esteem of 4 billion having access to the World Wide Web in year 2018. Mass communication has been defined as the process by which a person, a group of people, or organization creates a message and transmits it through some type of medium to a large, enormous, heterogeneous audience. Printing technology and newspapers were introduced in India after the arrival of the British. People started receiving printed news through newspapers. Newspaper became the first mass medium of circulating information and knowledge among the people. Precursor of newspaper. The word precursor means forerunner. Acta Dora are often considered as precursor of the modern newspaper, though both ancient Romans and the Chinese, as well as the other ancient civilization, has earlier formed news media. they do not qualify as newspaper because they could not be mass distributed. Before the beginning of the Common Era, there was a custom of spreading news or conveying message to the people through different process, such as in Egypt, placing inscriptions with royal decree at public places. Emperor Ashoka also resorted to similar method to reach out to his subjects. In the Roman Empire, royal decrees were written on the papers and those were distributed in all regions. They also contain the information of various events taking place in the nation and also in its capital. During Julius Caesar region, newspaper is known as Acta Dora, meaning act of every day, used to be placed at public places in Rome. It was very effective way of conveying royal command to people in the society. In the 7th century CE, royal dictates were distributed among people at public places. In England, handout used to be distributed occasionally, giving information about war and important events. Travelers arriving from faraway countries would add spice to the stories from the places and narrate it to the local people. The ambassador of the king posted at various places would send back important news to the royal court. Types of newspaper. Children, let us understand different types of newspapers that we are going to study in this chapter. So the first one that we are going to study, that is Bengal Gazette, which is also called as Calcutta General Advertiser. Next one, Darpan, Digdarshan, Prabhakar, Dayan Uday, Indu Prakash, Deen Bandhu, Kesari and Maratha, and the last one, that is Pragati. So children, let us understand about each of the newspaper and by whom it has been introduced and who is the publisher of the given newspaper. Children, let us understand the first newspaper, that is Bengal Gazette. As free thought and freedom of expression swept across the world, an Irishman called James Augustus Hacking gave Calcutta and India its first printing newspaper in year 1780. Hackey's Bengal Gazette, according to the young American scholars Andrew Otis, was a four-page weekly newspaper at the price of rupees 1. The first English newspaper of India was printed on 29 January 1718. It was named as Calcutta General Advertiser or Bengal Gazette. It was started by James Augustus Hackey, an Irish gentleman. Darpan. Bal Shastri Jambekar is also known as father of Marathi journalism for his efforts in starting journalism in Marathi language, with the first newspaper in the language named Darpan in the early days of British rule in India. Darpan was started in the year 1832 in Mumbai. The news printed in Darpan can be reviewed to know about the political, economic, social and cultural events of those times. Here are few new titles as the examples of the Durban. The first one, the account of expenditure from three administratives. Second one, division of East India Company. Third one, the danger of Russian attack on nation. Next, appointment of committee for cleanliness of the city. Remarriages of Hindu women or remarriages of Hindus widow. The inceptions of theatre at Calcutta and achievement of Raja Ram Mohan Roy in England. Reporting of such news through lives in the various historical events of those days. Balshastri Jambekar is referred as the first editor by virtue of his being the editor of the first Marathi newspaper. His birth date 6th January is observed as in Maharashtra as the Patrakar Din or Journalist Day. Prabhakar was a newspaper started by Bhau Mahajan. It was between in the early 80s when the newspaper and journalism came into the Indian scenario. Bhau Mahajan was known as a social reformer and he was already in collaboration in writing articles in Darpan and Digdarshan. Then he started a weekly newspaper, Prabhakar, which started focusing on social issues and was published in Marathi. This played a major role in Marathi language and development. This newspaper was started by Bahu Mahajan, shows the history of French Revolution and Shatpatra, later by Lokhitvadi, Gopal Hari Deshmukh, aimed at creating social awareness were published in this newspaper. Dhyanoday. Dhyanoday printed the map of Asia in year 1842 and the map of Europe in year 1851. The honor of printing and illustrating in an Indian newspaper for the first time goes to Dhyanoday. The news of installation of telegraph used for electrical transmitting a news can be seen in Dhyanoday. The news of starting railways in India was printed in Dhyanoday under the title Chakya Mahabosa, meaning Mahabosa with wheels. It had also printed the news of Indian War of Independence of year 1857. Newspapers in those time were very important medium of creating social awareness among the people. A newspaper named Indu Prakash also introduced at that time. Indu Prakash. Indu Prakash was started in year 1862. Indu Prakash was begun in Bombay, that is now in Mumbai. It was bilingual journal edited by M.G. Pranade. It criticized the orthodox of the people and was the mouthpiece of many social reformers. Indu Prakash was in the great Indu Prakash was the great supporter of widow remarriage in a big way. It also created a social awareness among the people. Deenbandhu. Deenbandhu was started in the year 1877. Jyotirao Phule and Krishnarao Bhalekar had begun the newspaper called as Deenbandhu, which was introduced as a part of Dalit uplift movement. Deenbandhu was the organ of the Satyashodhak Samaj, which was founded by Mahatma Jyotirao Phule. Dinabandhu, a newspaper representing the masses of the Indian society, that is, Bahujan Samaj, was started by Mahatma Jyotirao Phule and his close associate Krishna Rao Bhalekar. We also get information about the issues related to the masses through this newspaper. Kesari and Maratha. On 4th January 1881, Bal Gangadhar Tilak began Kesari, along with his associate Gopal Ganesh Agarkar. Kesari and Maratha are the two newspapers which shows an important stage in history of Indian newspaper before the independence. Gopal Ganesh Agarkar and Bal Gangadhar Tilak started this newspaper to show the social and the political issues of that period. Kesari began to publish articles about nationwide situations, books in the native languages, and the politics in the England. In the 21st century, newspaper has continued to fulfill an important role. It was acknowledged the fourth column of the democracy. Digdarshan. Bal Shastri Jambekar has grasped correctly the importance and the power of the print media in the coming times during British rule in India. He was sure that if the British was to be overthrown and freedom was to be attained, then it was essential to awake the masses, and the print media was most useful tool to that end. The newspaper Darpan was born out of this patriotism and social awareness. He founded Darpan as the first Marathi newspaper. He was editor of this newspaper during the British rule in India. This turned out to be the beginning of Marathi journalism. Bal Shastri Jambekar was only 20 years old when he has introduced the first monthly magazine in Marathi, which was called as Digdarshan. Pragati. Pragati was started in the year 1929 and was edited by Trambak Shankar Sejwalkar. Pragati, the Indian National Interest Review, is a publication on strategy affairs, economic policy, and governance. It is published by the Indian National Interest. It advocates economic freedom, political realism, an open society, a culture of tolerance, and good governance. Trambak Shankar Sejwalkar, he wrote regularly in his historiographical journalism of Maharashtra history and social movement in his magazine called as Pragati. Children, let us understand the publication of the newspaper, or when the newspaper was introduced. So in year 1780, the first English newspaper was introduced. The name of the newspaper was Bengal Gazette. It was introduced by James Augustus Hecke. In year 1832, Darpan newspaper was published. In year 1842, Map of Asia printed in Dhyanuday, as well as in the year 1857, Map of Europe printed in Dhyanuday. In year 1857, India War of Independence. In year 1881, Kesari and Maratha, these two newspapers was introduced. In the year 1929, Pragati, a news magazine, was introduced. Children, Let us come to the evaluation segment of the given module. So the first question that we have here, that is fill in the blank. The first newspaper in India was started by, so the answer for the question is James Augustus Hackey. Question number 2, identify the wrong pair in the following and correct it and rewrite. So the first one, Prabhakar by Acharya P.K. Atare, Darpan Bal Shastri Jambekar, Deenbandhu Krishna Rao Bhalekar, Kesari Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So the wrong pair of the question is first one, that is Prabhakar, which is introduced by Bhav Mahajan, not by Acharya P.K. Atare. Let us move to the next question. Write short note on role of newspaper in the Indian struggle for independence. So children, for writing this answer, you have to refer the video and you have to read the textbook thoroughly. Children, we will meet soon in the next module. Till then, enjoy learning.